And so I moved to Kansas in 97. And Pete and I, with a couple of other guys, and this guy called Ron Mach, we started Challenger. The goal was always to really roll up all the other soccer camps, because there was MLS camps that had about, when I left them, they had about 65,000 kids.
Okay.
British soccer camps, which Pete was running, had 10,000 kids. There was a company called Noga that had about 10,000 kids on Long Island. There was a company called Britannia in Maryland that had about 10,000 kids.
So it's significant if you can get them all together.
So we got all of them together,
Right.
and soccer.com had just started.
Okay.
So we got together with the Moylan brothers and said, let's roll everybody in together. Soccer.com will become our retail outlet.
Hi, this is James Moore, the Coordinate Sport Drive Phase podcast. This is your show about sports founders, leaders, and experts, and the stories behind their business journeys. On this episode, I sit down with Paul Lawrence, the CEO of Challenger, to discuss all things soccer, teamwear, growth, the distance traveled in the industry from when he started to now. Great conversation for anyone who's in the soccer industry, both in the US and in the UK, and looking to scale a business. Enjoy the show.
I guess a little bit of intro, talk about a bit of history, I guess, a bit about Challenger, maybe just on the conference, what it used to be like, what it's like now, and like.
Well, this is a big change, media and.
Never here before, was it?
No.
Okay.
No, I think they tried it last year, and one of the lads who's running the marketing for United Soccer Coaches used to work for us. He's brilliant. Yeah. He had a company called Gola Remy, and he and a local lad from Kansas City, they were the number one viral soccer coaching business.
Right.
Yeah, they weren't really business. Soccer instructional videos, they were superb.
Nice. So with, we chat about that, but also like highlights and stuff. So if there's anything you're looking forward to on the conference, convention, and then any kind of trends, I'm trying to touch on a bit of World Cup as well to like, World Cup, anything to look forward to?
Yeah.
How you think of
the World Cup's kind of coming. We're living in Kansas City, and it's big news. There's a lot of businesses gearing up to try and.
How many games have you got? A couple of games?
They haven't announced it yet, but it's one of the sites.
Right.
So it's Arrowhead Stadium where the Chiefs play.
Right. Got it.
So it's a good stadium. I'm going Saturday night to watch the Chiefs. It's going to be the coldest game ever in the NFL history by all accounts. Minus 19, and they're still playing.
It's too cold for me. Right, Paul, I wanted to ask you, in terms of when you started, also how you started Challenger, but also how you got into Challenger, and if we talk going back, what was it, 25 years maybe?
I'm old. Yeah, no, I started here in 76.
Right.
I came over, I was at Loughborough Colleges in England, and really I came over here on Bunacamp. Do you know what Bunacamp is?
No,
it's British University's North America.
Right,
Club.
sorry, yeah, I do.
So they have an exchange visa, similar to the J1 that the Americans, that we now use as a company to bring over Brits.
Yeah.
I came over, worked on an all sports camp for 8 weeks, and soccer was non-existent.
Okay.
So I ended up coaching soccer, and we had a inter-camp tournament that our team won. So I got approached by a group called Philadelphia Fury.
Okay.
That was the old NASL.
I was going to say this is before the MLS.
MLS, and there was the Cosmos, Tampa Bay, and Rodney Marsh and Frank.
Pele somewhere in there when he
Pele was I mean, it was a real interesting time because the Cosmos were the big team. They were getting 74,000 a game.
Wow.
And yet Minnesota or other teams in the league, they were getting 1,000. So it was the big guys.
Does that stack up now for MLS? It's 74,000. That'll be record. That'll be like record.
Right? Atlanta may have.
Oh yeah,
the Atlanta in their place may have equaled that. Right. So the crowds now are great. I mean, I go watching Sporting KC all the time, and Sporting KC only have a stadium of 19,000. It's sold out every week.
Yeah,
it's really good. And the atmosphere is good, because the stadiums were built for MLS, and so MLS has taken off, no doubt about it.
Yeah. So just going back to that, so you were.
Yeah, so I came over as a summer camp.
Yeah.
Then worked for a guy called Gary Russell, who was running a company called North American Soccer Camps. Yeah. So I was mainly based on the East Coast, on Long Island, and we would go around just for 8 to 10 weeks in the summer and coach all over the place. And soccer started to grow.
Yeah.
We had a couple of thousand kids, And then I got offered a job in Saudi Arabia, coaching soccer in Saudi Arabia.
Oh.
So I worked with Dario Gradi for the Royal Saudi Air Force.
Crew Alexander.
Crew Alexander, incredible coach.
Yeah.
So I was his assistant basically in Saudi Arabia, and then I got off.
It's how you saw it coming. Then you saw the Super League coming.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Well, I mean, I loved living in Saudi Arabia. It was fantastic. It was an amazing experience.
I bet. Yeah.
But obviously things have changed a lot. Since I was there. I was there in 82 to 84.
Okay.
So then I got offered a full-time job in the States. And it was, Gary was, pretty charismatic guy, and he was starting to sell his camps. He needed some other people to help him. So me and a couple of other Brits, we came over full-time, managed to eventually get a visa and stayed over here and started growing the business. Right. So we grew the business to about 50,000 kids. And then an agent for Cleveland Force with the indoor team, who was also the agent for an NFL player called Vinny Testaverde.
Okay.
He came back and said, have you ever thought of doing this concept with football, basketball, things like that?
Just going multi-sport then?
Yeah. So what we did is we went to the NFL and said, hey, we'll run flag football camps. And we'll take the same principles as soccer, where the NFL was struggling with what we called the 3 Ls. Lines, laps, and lectures. Because if you watched a typical Pop Warner type practice, it was these long lines of kids.
Static, innit?
Yeah, and it was terrible. Whereas soccer was growing because kids were getting involved and they're having more fun.
Yeah.
So we said, all right, let's try and adapt a soccer curriculum to flag football, which we did, and they went like gangbusters.
Yeah.
So I worked with the 49ers, the Patriots, the Bears, and the Dolphins for a year. Phenomenal experience.
So you were developing the program, or like from a business side, kind of scaling it up and
did everything for it.
Right.
And then the NFL packaged it together and sold it to the Park and Rec Association.
Right.
So we were only there a year, and then I bumped into Peter Arch. Came over. He was one of our employees,
right.
And then Pete got offered a position in Kansas with a guy he knew in Kansas, and he bumped into our principal shareholder, Ron Mach.
Right.
Ron was running indoor centers at the time, so he hired Pete to run those. And then Ron went off and did a program called Discovery Zone, which, do you know what Discovery Zones are?
No, but
Discovery Zones are the best example is if you go next to a Burger King or a McDonald's, the play area that you've got.
Okay, yeah.
It was a huge one of those.
Right.
So he took it public. Became a $2 billion business,
right,
and then sold it to a waste management company involving the Blockbuster people.
Right.
So Blockbuster bought it from him, and then he said, okay, I'm now ready. I've got some finances. I want to grow something to do with sport.
Right.
So he approached me, and Pete approached me and said, look, you ever move to Kansas? And I said, have I done something wrong? Why would I want to move to Kansas? Kansas is a flyover zone. Nobody comes to visit you.
Yeah.
Whereas if you're on the East Coast or the West Coast, a lot of people will see you.
Right.
And so I moved to Kansas in 97, and Pete and I, with a couple of other guys, and this guy called Ron Mach, we started Challenger. The goal was always to really roll up all the other soccer camps, because there was MLS camps that had when I left them, they had about 65,000 kids.
Okay.
British soccer camps, which Pete was running, had 10,000 kids. There was a company called Noga that had about 10,000 kids on Long Island. There was a company called Britannia in Maryland that had about 10,000 kids.
So it's significant if you can get them all together.
So we got all of them together, right. And soccer.com had just started.
Okay.
So we got together with the Moylan brothers and said, let's roll everybody in together. Soccer.com will become our retail outlet. We had another one of the groups who said they'd be the tournament guys. We had another group that said they were going to be XL Travel. We're going to become our travel company. So it was all complementary services.
So was this a meeting of the 5,000 other families?
It was, yeah.
Was it? Nice.
Except the trouble is everybody wanted to be the boss.
Okay.
And their valuations were, I want 10 times EBITDA.
Okay.
Then you're not going to get 10 times EBITDA. Yeah. So it was a little bit of lack of, I think nobody had really experimented with.
I think that happens sometimes when the market might not be as mature. Like, if it was now, maybe it'd be easier to do because everyone's kind of been through the...
Well, because you've been involved in that side of the business.
So with that one, then it was just a case of let's agree to disagree and all disperse kind of thing?
Yeah, I mean, we're all still good friends this day.
Yeah.
And everybody went off, and Noga actually did merge with UK Elite. So they became a little bit bigger. We decided, okay, MLS camps, as they were going to go off in different directions. They were mainly based in the Northeast, and we were based mainly in the Midwest. So we started to grow and grow and grow, and then we hired more people. And thanks to Ron's financing, really, we were able to invest in the business significantly more than the other guys.
Yeah.
Because, for the first few years, we lost millions.
Well, I was going to talk about sort of business model-wise. How does it flow? How does cash flow in? Because it's going to be is it spaced all summer?
Yeah.
Camps. Are you getting any revenues in throughout the year, or is it just all or nothing on the one?
Exactly. Yeah, I mean, it's at Christmas. Your Christmas period.
That's when you opened up enrollments.
Yeah.
Right, okay.
Well, your Christmas. Well, what we did was, I'll give Peter Arch a lot of credit. It was really his idea. He came up with a replica jersey. He said, "Look, we need something to get the kids to sign up earlier, and if we give them an incentive." So we came up with a replica shirt, and Pete did a good job. He made it British, because we were called British soccer camps at the time.
Right.
And what we did is January 1 of each year, we would start sending out to all of our database, "Hey, do you want to sign up for camp? You get a free jersey."
Got it.
So the kids would get this jersey. They'd wear it around town, and people say, "Whoa, I really like that. What's that on it?" And it's a British flag and everything else. And they'd say, "Okay, how do I get one?" "Sign up for camp." So they sign up for camp, we'd ship them another shirt. So it was self-marketed, and people's good at that stuff. So that really catapulted the business. We went from 10,000 kids to 20,000 kids to 40,000 kids. We ended up with 125,000 kids in our programs.
So just to kind of, I guess, quantify 125,000 kids, how many camps would that roughly be like, I guess?
Thousands.
Thousands of camps?
Thousands. We average about 50 kids a camp.
Right, okay. And then I guess the next one I was talking about, because it's probably a lot different now, is like staffing that, right? So I came across Challenger when I was in the UK, because I'd see you at events, recruiting a lot of my friends coming over to the States and stayed or didn't stay or whatever. But how did you go about, was that always the model to bring people in?
Yeah, because, the beauty of it was really when we, people from Britain, I mean, as you know, from coming over here yourself, America's an amazing place. The standard of living's really good. Yeah, exactly. The weather is incredible. Yeah. Not so much in Kansas today, but certainly in California. And everybody would come here with wide eyes, and you've really got a captive audience as well. Yeah. So they would come over here. They'd work really hard for 8 weeks, 6 weeks, whatever it was. A lot of teachers, a lot of guys who were teaching. So the quality of our coaches was superb. And there wasn't an American coach. So we'd be training the American coaches how to coach through the year.
Okay.
And then we started bringing out guys and putting them on contracts that lasted 10 months, 11 months. They'd go home for Christmas and then come back on another visa. We had 385 guys that were doing that on a year-round basis.
So logistically then, who was doing the visa application?
Oh, we had a recruitment group.
You had
and then we had a business in Britain. And we had we still have. We've got two main guys, one in Wales, one in Stockport, and then we have a regional guy in Northern Ireland, a lady in Scotland, and sort of covering the country as much as possible.
Cool. So then, that was going gangbusters, and you went into. Were you already doing apparel at that time, or you?
No, it took us about 3 or 4 years to get it. 5 years to get into apparel. We just got the camps going pretty well. Yeah. We'd already bought a tournament company. We'd already bought a tours company. And then we moved into apparel.
And was that, I guess I was going to say, was that always the thought process? Or was it just you started seeing the bills that you're spending on apparel?
No, it was, we were sponsored by a company called Zara. There was a lad called Chris Price, a really good lad out of Liverpool, who's living in California. Right. And his product was outstanding. The quality of the stuff was great. He just didn't have the marketing budget to be mixing it with the big boys. Right. So he wanted grassroots marketing, which we were able to give him. And we had a good partnership together. But we could tell, hey, this is something that you could see the market was starting to grow. Yeah. And, as good, as much as I like Adidas and Nike and Under Armour and all the other top brands, it's expensive. Yeah. Really expensive.
Yeah, the price point.
So we wanted to come up with a $15 uniform. Right. It's now $20. But for the $20, you now get a shirt, short, and socks, logo on the front, number on the back.
So when was that? When did you launch the $15?
That $15 one was in 2003.
So pretty good I guess still keeping it under 20 with all inflation, everything's a bit good.
Yeah. I mean,
maybe not for the
it's got up
bottom line,
$5. Yeah. Well, there's a lot of people who go more than that now because that's our entry level jersey. You know, it's just really a 100% poly t-shirt.
Got it.
And now we have some pretty nice ones. And then sublimations come into the market. Yeah. So we're doing a lot more with, I would call, you know, the clubs that aren't getting approached by the big boys, because there's a lot of DOCs now that can make a lot of money out of it. You know, it's expensive. I mean, we have some clubs, it's $350 for the kids' uniform.
Oh.
You know, and I'm glad my kids have grown up and they're no longer in it because I wouldn't want to spend that much on a uniform, knowing how much they really cost.
Of course, yeah. Well, so probably what good one to touch on now, because we were talking earlier on off camera around what you're doing with the camps now.
Yeah.
So kind of skipping forward a bit in terms of how you keep innovating the camps, because it's obviously pay to play in the States is where it is with soccer, and I guess you got to always keep adding value. Yeah, well, on the apparel side, obviously it was 300.
Unfortunately, our business hit a real downturn. In 2019, we had 65,000 kids. You know, the numbers of the camps were always going to go backwards because the American coach came on board. Places like this, you know, training.
We use pioneers in the market, so obviously you got all the local competition coming.
Correct.
I guess.
Plus the visa changed. You know, the visa laws changed. Yeah, Donald Trump was, you know, make America great, get all the Brits out, get all the, you know, South Americans out and everything else. Yeah. Which, you know, I understand, but don't necessarily agree with. Yeah. And as a result, we lost all our visa access. So we couldn't bring out people on a year-round basis. So we went from a $40 million business down to 12 in COVID.
So like almost overnight then? Right?
Overnight, yeah. Our camps went from 65,000 down to 8,000 kids.
Right.
So what we did was, you know, we started rebuilding it again. We're back up to 36,000.
Right.
And we rebranded because it was no good being called British soccer camps anymore. There's so many Brits involved in youth sports over here.
Yeah.
Didn't have a knock-on effect anymore. Plus the level of coach we were starting to bring out was a lot younger. Not so many teachers, because you know they just didn't want to come out and work with the level of kid that we had, because the level of the player was dropping and the age was dropping. So our average age used to be 11, 12. Now it's 8.
Right.
So we're dealing really with the younger kids, 5 through 9, 5 through 10.
Yeah, and are you seeing that their fundamentals aren't as good coming into camp? General physical movement skills and stuff like that?
Well, it's the rec kids. You know, I mean, the clubs do a great job on a year-round basis. So why would they want to come to camp? So we said, look, we've got to change our product because we're going to become a daycare soccer company. And if you've got an option of why would I go to soccer, it should be going to soccer camp because I really want my kids to get better at soccer.
And that's going to affect how you can who you can recruit to come and coach that group of kids.
Correct.
They'd rather be at the club.
Absolutely. Right. Yeah, absolutely. So we managed to sign up with a guy called Darren Laver. He was running a freestyle soccer camp company, and we looked at what he's doing. He's a doctorate, so he's doing his PhD. He's doing the research, and the research that he was bringing about, I think, is, you know, I was saying off camera before, you know, we were listening to Eric Ronaldo last night. He was exactly espousing the same approach.
Right.
He's now MLS Next, you know, with a team in Las Vegas, and he was saying, hey, you know, he called it unconscious consciousness.
Okay.
And what he was saying was, I think there's a psychological model that shows if you, this is what Darren's been doing his research in, is the game's the best teacher. And really what you should be looking to do is the top players, you don't what you need to do is put them in an environment that they prosper. So you don't need to drill them. You don't need to be talking to them every 5 minutes saying, do this, do that, do this, do this. It's let them develop.
So it's almost they're learning from experience. If they're experienced doing that in a game scenario.
It's creating the right experiences.
So that'd be better than drilling it 100 times. If it happens to you twice in a match, you're going to forget it. Right.
Correct. So what we did was we said, we're going to get away, because the drills that we were doing in our summer camps, pretty much the same drills that everybody's doing.
Yeah.
There's only so many drills. So many passing drills, shooting drills, and things like that. So we decided we need to do something totally different. So what we did is we used Darren's model of inflatable fields. So the fields that you see over on one of the booths, they're blow-up fields, and you play 2v2, 3v3, 2v2, 1v1, and they've got bazooka goals at the end, and the idea is score as many goals as you can, but it's it's teaching creative skills. Yeah. What we found was, I'm sure you're well aware of freestyle. Yeah. And the freestyle guys are brilliant, but does it relate into a game? No, not at all. You never see the top players doing that. You don't see Messi do freestyle skills. No. I'm sure he does it in the wall.
You can definitely do it,
but it's not what he does in the game. So we've really focused on getting creative skills, and we created, Darren did, created skill acquisition zones around the outside, where they get to reinforce some of the technique that we're trying to teach.
Cool.
So it's gone really well.
Yeah, and so what's, I guess, early on in the year, but what's the outlook for this year's camp?
We think we're going to hit about 45,000 kids.
So normal, so you're almost back up there. I think
we're getting back again, but it's definitely a lower end. We've started doing different things with organizations, because what we're doing is a licensing program with a lot of clubs. So we'll go to a club and say, hey, you get 3 inflatable fields, you get a curriculum, you get, we have what's called a VDOC, a virtual director of coaching. So it's a little bit like some of these software programs you see around here, where it's a communication tool, software communication tool.
Got it.
And it's a way of the coaches buying into it, and we give them that for free, for free as part of the license.
Right.
So we think that's something that's going to grow.
So we talked about that, the history of Challenger, but in terms of this conference, were you here on the very first one, or how long?
Oh yeah. I mean, I wouldn't say the first one, but I've been these since.
Would you say it's the first time you had an exhibition stand?
First time we haven't had a booth.
Yeah.
Because what we found was we didn't want to spend $40,000 on a booth because there wasn't a return on investment.
Got it.
Most of the guys who were coming, we already knew. And with Zoom and everything else, we didn't need to have people spread out all over the place. So we used to have 16 offices spread out across the country. We've now got 2.
Right.
And people rather work from home, and they like working from home, and they're more productive.
Exactly. So in terms of the conference, is there anything you're looking forward to seeing? And there's a lot of sessions going on. Said Eric last night.
I think what I'm interested in is where the game's evolving.
Yeah.
Because there's no doubt if you start at the upper end, why is America still not a world leader? There's thousands and thousands of kids. The pay-to-play model has got to change. Right. And what Eric was talking about last night was the way in there's certain people, everything's gone data-driven, as I'm sure you know.
Well, you see most of the stands are like player data, how are we capturing it, what are we doing with AI?
A friend of ours, that's why I wanted to take you over to meetthegoalkeeper.com. They have a great program, data-driven.
Right.
And the 2 guys that run it, one's an ex-professional goalie, and the other guy is basically a finance mathematician, coding person.
So you pull all the AI and algorithms together, right?
Yeah, he pulls all out together, and they do some amazing data for goalkeepers.
Nice.
So it's definitely data driven, and I think what the data's coming out from other countries. The interesting one is Norway. Norway now have banned all competitive play until you get to 12 or 13 years old.
Right. So that sounds strange. So no game, no match.
You play as many scrimmages and as much intramural games.
So there's no leagues and there's not
there's no keeping of score and things like that.
Wow.
But they're producing Haaland and incredible players.
So with that pay-to-play, that's an interesting one just to tease on a little bit. You feel like that's obviously a barrier, and you think that's the main barrier that's stopping like mass adoption of soccer?
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely, yeah. In our town in Kansas City, there's a really interesting group called Global FC, and they've got immigrants and refugees, and they've created their own soccer club. We helped sponsor them for a little while now. Thanks to Capelli, they've got, Capelli have sponsored them too. And they've got some amazing kids and amazing players, but there's no way they could play in one of the big clubs because they couldn't afford it.
And is that, so if you look at the other sports in the US, is it pay to play for everything, or where's the mass participation? That's basketball, yeah?
Basketball is the big one. I mean...
Low barrier, with equipment's minimal.
I always used to say you could, when I looked at a high school team, a Kansas City high school team could probably beat in when I was at college, the English national team.
Right.
I mean, every kid over here can play basketball to a certain level.
Right.
They're all very good. Baseball, I mean, a lot. Volleyball's really taken off in our area. Then across the country, I think there's a women's sport.
So what do you think, can change it. So it's quite embedded now, right? So pay to play. Soccer as a business. So I'm looking at it now as a business is what it is.
And it provide. I think MLS have done a good job in trying to make it easier for less advantaged players to play at the top level.
Good.
And they cover a lot of the expenses now. But something like that's got to happen at the club level. The clubs have got to generate enough revenue so that they have a sponsorship, a low income level program, so that people with less resources get to play.
Because there's a challenge on travel as well. What I've noticed, just even in Southern California, I know a couple people play for a team, and it's like, so a little girls, I've spoken to parents recently, and they're going from, I think they've got 2 games a weekend, they've got 2 training sessions, the games are like, they've got Los Angeles up to Santa Barbara, down here, whatever. So it's like,
you got any kids yet?
Yeah, I've got, they're not playing soccer yet. They're playing a little bit, but not.
How old?
So 4 and 7.
So you're gonna get there.
Yeah,
and when they get to 7 years old, I mean, I've got a 6-year-old granddaughter, and I went watching her play, and my son was a really good player, and he was getting really frustrated watching it because she was picking flowers and watching the clouds go by and things like that. It's not for everybody, obviously.
Yeah.
And I think the most important thing is if you find a sport or a pastime, whether it's playing the piano or something, find something that they're really interested in, and it's going to be a passion of theirs.
Yeah.
And for soccer, it's a lot. I mean, the girls over here are incredible.
Yeah.
I mean, I go watching some of last Monday in town, we organized, we didn't organize it. We were with a group that was organizing college-age kids, all guys that were home for the holidays.
Okay.
And there was 18 teams of 6 playing a round-robin tournament.
Awesome.
The level of play was really, really good. Division 1 players, Division 2, Division 3, NAIA players, phenomenal.
So that must be, I guess, in contrast to where it was, as the games progressed.
Yeah.
This last question is more around the World Cup, right? So I want to know, obviously you had it before '94. I don't know if you saw a massive spike after that, but are we expecting that to be the same now again?
Yeah, absolutely. Because America loves big events, the Super Bowl. It always amazes me about Olympics, athletics. There's some amazing athletics competitions around here, but you never see it for 4 years. And then the Olympics come along and you realize how good America is on it. So I think the Americans love big events. And I think with the World Cup coming here, it's going to be a huge boost for the game.
Yeah.
Huge.
Brilliant. Right, Paul, thanks so much for your time, man.
No,
enjoyed chatting to you. Good chat long, but I know you got sessions to get to.
That's right.
Yeah.
People to be.
Yeah.
Okay, James, good to see you.